After saving an odd pink creature, a lady makes a startling discovery. Jessica's maternal instincts came into play when she discovered this odd, tiny pink creature. She wanted to preserve the life of this little, defenseless creature. The odds didn't seem good, but she was determined to try. Come along as we tell the tale of Steve, the small pink creature. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. In February 2019, a typical day turned into an exceptional one in Jessica's life. She had to take a young child to preschool that morning. After escorting her to her lesson, she said her farewell and began to walk back to her car. Something minuscule moved, caught her attention out of the corner of her eye. When she noticed the movement once more, she was prepared to dismiss it, believing it to be only a leaf. She was driven to examine by instinct, which caused her to move closer. There was a little animal hardly moving on the hard, chilly concrete. Her heart was filled with sympathy at once. Jessica chose to take it up even though she was unable to identify what it was. The little animal had to have tumbled out of its nest. Perhaps the stronger bird was reared, while the lesser bird was ejected from the nest. This small animal was struggling to breathe, whatever the situation. Jessica searched the surrounding trees in vain for a nest. Since there was a significant windstorm the day before, it seemed sense that it fell from a nest. Jessica deduced that since it didn't resemble a bird, it was most likely a kind of rodent or mouse. She was determined to save the animal, whatever it could be. Searching through her purse, Jessica tried to locate anything to warm this small creature. Despite her lack of expectation, as an animal lover, she decided to give it a shot. She attempted to use her body heat to try and warm the little shivering animal by wrapping it in her scarf and placing it inside her jersey. She was hopeful it would make it through the ride home at the moment. What kind of creature was this? At this point, all she could make out of it was that it was a little pinkish thing without any feathers or hair covering it. The eyes remained closed. The animal folded into a little ball and lay there utterly defenseless. It was obviously a newborn because it was small enough to fit in her hand. She was shocked to see that it nearly seemed to be hurt. After getting home, Jessica built this strangely little animal a cozy, soft, and warm little bed. This small thing would starve to death if she didn't figure out how to start feeding it. Typically, humans use a syringe to feed small animals and sample milk. For now, there was nothing else she could do. The small animal swallowed some of the milk, but it was still weak and eventually slept off. Jessica listened intently and heard faint squeaking noises. Despite getting very little sleep that night, she felt exhausted. Given that the majority of baby animals who fall from a nest or are found abandoned do not survive the first night, this was an exciting occasion. They don't always flourish in settings where people make an effort to look after them. Jessica sincerely didn't think the little animal would make it, but she held out hope that it would. This small youngster was still breathing 2 days later. Steve was her name for it. Steve weighed just 38 grams, or 1.3 ounces at first. To give you an idea, this weighs around the same as a slice of bread or a simple USB flash drive. Would you have accepted this assignment to try to ensure this ill, unidentified small creature's survival? Steve needed to be fed every several hours, just like any other baby. Every night, Jessica programmed the alarm clock to deliver feedings every 3 to 4 hours. She slept through several anxious periods since Steve had not yet left the woods. Despite her little lack of sleep, she was willing to sacrifice everything for Steve. Meanwhile, Jessica wanted someone to watch Steve throughout the day so she could carry on with her regular job life. His frailty prevented him from being left home alone. Steve would always accompany Jessica wherever she went since she was the only one who could look after him. He was so little, no one would even notice if she kept him close to her body. Jessica talked to her supervisor about her obligations to her newfound animal buddy. Fortunately, he was understanding and let her bring Steve to work. In order to carry out her duties and keep feeding him at regular times, much like a little baby, she would make sure that she had some milk formula and a secure spot for him to sleep. The fact that little Steve slept a lot helped to ease the situation. Even while he was still a little hairless creature that appeared extremely weak, he was becoming stronger. Steve, still getting used to trusting others, felt puzzled and afraid. Every 3 to 4 hours, the original milk formula was switched out for a puppy supplement, and pipettes were used for feeding. Jessica used the internet to get instructions on how to feed her newborn. She would not have been able to assist Steve in surviving and becoming stronger if it weren't for the insightful knowledge she discovered online. Little Steve gained a lot of weight after 2 months. Identify the approximate amount, a whole 57 grams or 2 ounces. It might not seem like much, but since the day he was pulled from the cold, his weight has increased by over twice. He would cling to Jessica's legs like a small leech when she brought him out into the wild. When Steve went to sleep after such an exciting day, it was evident that he was dreaming. Jessica wasn't sure if the dream was real or imagined. Jessica had to attend a jiu-jitsu event at this period. Could you imagine the predicament she was in? Since she couldn't bring Steve along, she thought about a few different choices. Eventually, they managed to get a sitter to watch Steve. Every parent wants to know that their children are in good hands when they need a vacation or have to travel. At this point, Jessica began to be referred to as Steve's mother. In honor of this moniker bestowed to her by the countless fans of Steve's narrative, she received an inscribed bracelet that said, "Steve's Mom." She wears the bracelet all the time and is quite proud of her status. Jessica developed feelings for Steve. She was thrilled to nurture this tiny critter back to health after he was about to perish. Steve discovered that his favorite place was nestled into Jessica's neck. He feels warmth and comfort there. Jessica and Steve's relationship was becoming closer every day. She was aware that he was adoring her in return, in addition to her own love for him. In the ensuing months, Steve's appearance began to shift. At first, he was rather unattractive. Steve, according to Jessica, had a face that only a mother could adore. The body began to turn a deeper shade of pink. It took some time, but hair eventually began to show. This hideous, tiny thing was developing into a lovely young man. His mother, a human, adored him without conditions. Even if he had been a rat, she would still have reared him with love. She began to realize what type of beast Steve was after all this time. You'd probably also want to hear that the plump, pinkish infant who was saved from near death after being discovered on a chilly sidewalk turned out to be a gray squirrel. You might be wondering if Jessica's efforts to help him survive were worthwhile, but she learned to appreciate him as a companion. She gave up a great deal to provide him the care he needed to survive and get stronger. She would do it again if she had to make a decision. Jessica eventually invited Steve to her backyard. Gradually, she let him go outside with patience. She let him go at last when they were both ready. He didn't come home the first several evenings. Not long after, Jessica became concerned when Steve emerged in quest of food. Steve is somewhat of a celebrity, having at least 1,000 followers and 7 million views on Facebook, and he still makes frequent visits to the garden. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you like Jessica and Steve's tale. You can see more touching stories like this one there. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.